I'm Adam, and today we have a very special episode for you. We're going to explore how America became a powerful and developed country. This journey is fascinating, and we have a lot to cover.
Hi everyone, I'm Julia. We are so excited to have you with us today. This episode is designed for English learners, so we'll be using simple words and sentences. Whether you're just starting to learn English or looking to improve, this podcast will help you.
To make this episode even more special, we have a distinguished guest with us. Dr. Sarah Johnson is a professor of American history. She has spent years studying and teaching about the history of the United States, and she's here to share her insights with us.
Welcome, Dr. Johnson. We are thrilled to have you on the English Globe podcast.
Thank you, Adam and Julia. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to discuss America's journey to becoming a global power and to help your listeners learn more about this important topic.
For those tuning in, here's what we'll be covering in today's podcast. We'll start with a look at the historical context from early American history to the American Revolution and the formation of the Constitution. Then we'll move on to economic growth during the Industrial Revolution and the rise of manufacturing and innovation.
Next, we'll talk about immigration and diversity and how different immigrant groups have contributed to American culture and economy. We'll also discuss America's military and global influence, including its role in world wars and the Cold War era.
We'll then explore technological advancements, like the space race and the rise of Silicon Valley, followed by political and social movements, such as the Civil Rights Movement. We'll also touch on America's cultural influence through Hollywood, music, and literature.
After that, we'll delve into economic policies and global trade, examining key policies driving growth and America's role in the global economy. Finally, we'll have an in-depth discussion with Dr. Johnson, where she'll share her insights and answer some of our questions.
We hope this overview gives you a clear picture of what's ahead. There's a lot to learn, and we're excited to take this journey with you. So, let's get started.
Segment 1, Historical Context.
Now, let's dive into the historical context of America's rise to power. To understand how America became a powerful and developed country, we need to start from the beginning. Early American history, colonization, and independence.
Yes, the story of America begins with the arrival of European settlers. In the early 1600s, people from Europe, especially from England, came to North America. They established colonies along the eastern coast. These colonies were a mix of different groups, some seeking religious freedom, others looking for new opportunities and land.
One of the most famous early settlements was Jamestown, founded in Virginia in 1607. It was the first permanent English settlement in North America. Life was very tough for these early settlers. They faced harsh winters, disease, and conflicts with Native American tribes. Despite these challenges, the colonies grew and more people came.
By the mid-1700s, there were 13 colonies. Each colony had its own government, but was under the control of the British Crown. Over time, the colonists started to feel that they were not being treated fairly by Britain. They had to pay taxes, but had no say in how they were governed. This led to growing discontent and calls for independence.
The tension between the colonies and Britain reached a breaking point in the 1770s. The American Revolution began in 1775. The colonists, or patriots, fought for their independence from British rule. The revolution was a difficult and bloody conflict, but it was also a time of great courage and determination.
One of the key events during the Revolution was the Declaration of Independence, written by Thomas Jefferson and adopted on July 4, 1776. This document declared that the 13 colonies were now independent states and no longer under British rule. It emphasized the principles of liberty, equality, and democracy.
The American Revolution lasted until 1783, when the Treaty of Paris was signed. This treaty officially ended the war and recognized the sovereignty of the United States. Winning the revolution was a significant achievement, but it was just the beginning. The new nation faced many challenges as it tried to establish itself.
After gaining independence, the next major step was the formation of a stable and effective government. The Articles of Confederation were the first attempt, but they proved to be too weak. The national government lacked the power to tax and regulate commerce, which led to many problems.
In 1787, delegates from the states met in Philadelphia to create a new constitution. This meeting is known as the Constitutional Convention. The result was the United States Constitution, a document that established the framework for the federal government and its relationship with the states and citizens.
The Constitution introduced a system of checks and balances with three branches of government: the legislative branch, Congress, the executive branch, the President, and the judicial branch, the Supreme Court. This system was designed to prevent any one branch from becoming too powerful.
The Constitution also included a Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments that guarantee fundamental rights and freedoms, such as freedom of speech, religion, and the press. These rights are central to American values and have shaped the country's legal and political landscape.
Creating the Constitution was not easy. There were many debates and compromises, but in the end, it provided a strong foundation for the new nation. It helped unite the states and provided a blueprint for growth and development.
So in summary, early American history, from colonization and independence to the formation of the United States Constitution, laid the groundwork for the nation's rise. The determination and vision of the early settlers and leaders set the stage for America to grow into a powerful and prosperous country.
Now that we've covered the historical context, let's move on to the next segment where we'll discuss America's economic growth during the Industrial Revolution and how it contributed to the country's development. Segment 2: Economic Growth.
Now let's explore how America's economic growth played a crucial role in its rise to power. This segment will cover the Industrial Revolution and its effects on America's economy, the rise of manufacturing and innovation, and key economic policies that impacted growth.
The Industrial Revolution began in the late 18th century and brought significant changes to the American economy. Before this period, most people in America lived in rural areas and worked in agriculture. However, the Industrial Revolution marked a shift towards industrialization and urbanization.
One of the key factors driving this change was the introduction of new technologies and machinery. Innovations like the cotton gin, invented by Eli Whitney in 1793, revolutionized the production of cotton by making it much faster and more efficient. This had a huge impact on the American South, where cotton became a major cash crop.
In the North, the rise of factories and mills transformed the economy. Textile mills, like those in Lowell, Massachusetts, became centers of production. These mills employed many workers, including women and children, who moved from rural areas to cities for jobs. This shift from agriculture to industry marked the beginning of America's journey to becoming an economic powerhouse.
The growth of manufacturing didn't stop with textiles. The development of the steam engine and the expansion of railroads in the 19th century further boosted industrial growth. Railroads connected different parts of the country, making it easier to transport goods and people. This not only stimulated trade but also opened up new markets and resources.
Innovation was another key driver of economic growth. Inventors like Thomas Edison and Alexander Graham Bell made groundbreaking contributions with inventions such as the electric light bulb and the telephone. These innovations not only improved daily life, but also created new industries and job opportunities.
As America industrialized, it also developed a strong financial sector to support economic growth. Banks and financial institutions played a critical role in providing capital for businesses to expand and innovate. The creation of the New York Stock Exchange in 1792 marked the beginning of America's financial markets.
Key economic policies also had a significant impact on America's growth. For example, the establishment of a national banking system during the Civil War helped stabilize the economy and provide a uniform currency. The Homestead Act of 1862 encouraged westward expansion by providing land to settlers, which boosted agriculture and created new economic opportunities.
The Morrill Act of 1862 also played an important role by establishing land-grant colleges, which promoted education in agriculture and the mechanical arts. This investment in education helped develop a skilled workforce that could contribute to industrial growth and innovation.
The late 19th and early 20th centuries saw further economic expansion. The rise of big businesses and corporations, such as Standard Oil and Carnegie Steel, transformed the American economy. These companies took advantage of economies of scale to dominate their industries and drive economic growth.
However, this period of rapid industrialization and economic growth also brought challenges. The rise of monopolies and trusts led to calls for regulation. In response, the government enacted antitrust laws, such as the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890, to promote competition and prevent unfair business practices.
Despite these challenges, America's economy continued to grow. The development of infrastructure, such as the Transcontinental Railroad, further integrated the national economy and facilitated the movement of goods and people across the country.
The early 20th century saw continued innovation and growth. The introduction of the assembly line by Henry Ford revolutionized manufacturing and made products like automobiles more affordable for the average American. This era also saw the rise of consumer culture and the growth of new industries, such as advertising and entertainment.
World War I and World War II had significant impacts on America's economy. The wars stimulated industrial production and technological innovation, and America emerged from World War II as a global economic leader. The post-war period saw unprecedented economic growth, with rising incomes, increased consumer spending, and the expansion of the middle class.
Key economic policies, such as the New Deal programs during the Great Depression and the GI Bill after World War II, played important roles in supporting economic growth and stability. These policies helped create jobs, provide education and housing, and support infrastructure development.
In summary, America's economic growth was driven by industrialization, innovation, and key economic policies. This growth transformed the country from a largely agrarian society to a leading industrial power. The rise of manufacturing, the development of infrastructure, and the creation of a strong financial sector were all critical factors in America's economic success.
Now that we've explored the economic growth that fueled America's rise, let's move on to the next segment where we'll discuss immigration and diversity and how they contributed to America's development.
Segment 3, Immigration and Diversity.
In this segment, we'll discuss the vital role of immigration in building a diverse society in America. We'll also look at the contributions of different immigrant groups to American culture and the economy, as well as the challenges and opportunities they faced.
America has long been known as a nation of immigrants. From the early days of European settlement to the present, people from around the world have come to the United States seeking new opportunities and a better life. This wave of immigration has profoundly shaped the country's social, cultural, and economic landscape.
The first significant wave of immigrants came from Europe in the 19th century. Millions of people from Ireland, Germany, Italy, and other European countries arrived in the United States. They brought with them diverse cultures, languages, and traditions, enriching the American social fabric.
Irish immigrants, for example, played a crucial role in building America's infrastructure. Many worked on railroads, canals, and in factories, contributing to the nation's rapid industrialization. German immigrants, on the other hand, brought advanced farming techniques and established thriving communities in the Midwest, boosting agricultural productivity.
In addition to Europeans, there was also significant immigration from Asia. Chinese immigrants, for example, were instrumental in constructing the transcontinental railroad in the mid-19th century. Despite facing harsh conditions and discrimination, they made vital contributions to the country's infrastructure and economy.
Similarly, Japanese immigrants settled on the West Coast, where they established successful agricultural businesses. They introduced new farming methods and crops, which enriched American agriculture. Over time, these communities grew and became an integral part of the American mosaic.
The late 19th and early 20th centuries saw a new wave of immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe. People from countries like Poland, Russia, and Greece arrived in large numbers. Many of them settled in urban areas and worked in factories, contributing to the growth of American cities and industries.
One of the most significant periods of immigration was during the early 20th century, when Ellis Island in New York Harbor became the gateway for millions of immigrants. This era of mass immigration helped fuel America's economic growth and cultural diversity.
These immigrant groups brought with them rich cultural traditions, which have had a lasting impact on American society. They introduced new foods, music, and customs, creating a vibrant, multicultural society. For example, Italian immigrants popularized foods like pizza and pasta, which are now staples of American cuisine.
Jewish immigrants from Eastern Europe contributed significantly to American arts, science, and business. Many became successful entrepreneurs, scientists, and artists, enriching American culture and advancing technological and scientific progress.
Immigration also brought significant economic benefits. Immigrants often took on jobs that were in high demand, filling critical labor shortages in various industries. They started businesses, created jobs, and contributed to economic innovation and growth. Immigrant entrepreneurs have founded some of the most successful companies in America, driving economic progress and technological advancements.
Despite their contributions, immigrants have also faced significant challenges. Many experienced discrimination, prejudice, and harsh living and working conditions. Laws like the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 and the Immigration Act of 1924 sought to limit immigration from certain countries, reflecting the nativist sentiments of the time.
However, immigrants have continually overcome these challenges and have found opportunities to thrive. Over time, American society has become more inclusive and accepting of diverse cultures. Civil rights movements and changes in immigration laws have helped reduce discrimination and create a more welcoming environment for immigrants.
Today, immigration continues to play a vital role in America's development. Immigrants from Latin America, Asia, Africa, and other regions bring fresh perspectives, skills, and ideas. They contribute to the economy, enrich the cultural landscape, and help drive innovation in various fields.
In summary, immigration has been a cornerstone of America's growth and diversity. The contributions of different immigrant groups have shaped the nation's culture, economy, and society. Despite facing challenges, immigrants have found opportunities to succeed and have played a crucial role in building America into the global power it is today.
Now that we've explored the impact of immigration and diversity, let's move on to our next segment where we'll discuss America's military and global influence and how these factors have contributed to its rise as a superpower. Segment 4: Military and Global Influence.
Now let's discuss America's military and global influence, a key factor in its rise to power. We'll cover America's role in World Wars I and II, the Cold War era, and the establishment of the U.S. as a superpower, as well as modern military interventions and its global presence.
America's involvement in World War I marked its emergence as a significant global player. The U.S. initially remained neutral when the war began in 1914, but several factors led to its entry in 1917. One major factor was the unrestricted submarine warfare by Germany, which threatened American ships and lives. The Zimmermann telegram, in which Germany proposed a military alliance with Mexico against the U.S., also played a crucial role. America's involvement in World War I marked its emergence as a significant global player. The U.S. initially remained neutral when the war began in 1914, but several factors led to its entry in 1917. One major factor was the unrestricted submarine warfare by Germany, which threatened American ships and lives. The Zimmermann telegram, in which Germany proposed a military alliance with Mexico against the U.S., also played a crucial role.
When the U.S. entered the war, it provided much-needed support to the Allies through troops, resources, and supplies. American forces helped turn the tide against the Central Powers, leading to the eventual victory of the Allies in 1918. The Treaty of Versailles ended the war, and the U.S. emerged with greater influence on the global stage.
World War II further solidified America's status as a global power. The U.S. entered the war in 1941 after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. America's industrial capacity played a significant role in the Allied victory. Factories shifted to war production, creating an arsenal of democracy that supplied the Allies with tanks, planes, and other critical war materials.
American troops fought in major battles across Europe, Africa, and the Pacific. The D-Day invasion in 1944, where American forces landed in Normandy, France, was a turning point in the war. The eventual defeat of Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan showcased America's military might and strategic capabilities.
The end of World War II saw the beginning of the Cold War, a period of geopolitical tension between the United States and the Soviet Union. The Cold War era was characterized by the ideological conflict between capitalism, represented by the US, and communism, represented by the Soviet Union. This period saw a significant expansion of American military and political influence globally.
One of the key aspects of the Cold War was the policy of containment, aimed at preventing the spread of communism. The U.S. provided economic and military aid to countries resisting communist influence, such as through the Marshall Plan, which helped rebuild Western Europe, and the Truman Doctrine, which supported Greece and Turkey.
The Cold War also saw the establishment of military alliances. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, was formed in 1949, creating a collective defense pact between the US and several Western European nations. This alliance was a key element in deterring Soviet aggression and maintaining stability in Europe.
The Cold War wasn't just about military alliances and economic aid. It also involved a race for technological and scientific superiority. The space race was a notable example, where the US and the Soviet Union competed to achieve milestones in space exploration. The US landing the first man on the moon in 1969 was a significant victory in this competition.
Throughout the Cold War, the US engaged in various military interventions to counter communist influence. These included the Korean War in the early 1950s, where American forces fought to defend South Korea from a communist invasion by North Korea, and the Vietnam War, which aimed to prevent the spread of communism in Southeast Asia.
The end of the Cold War came with the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991. This marked the US as the world's sole superpower. The post-Cold War era saw America leading efforts to promote democracy, economic development, and peacekeeping around the world.
Modern military interventions have further demonstrated America's global presence. The Gulf War in 1991, for instance, saw a coalition led by the US liberate Kuwait from Iraqi occupation. This conflict highlighted the US military's advanced technology and strategic capabilities.
The events of September 11, 2001, brought about a new focus on combating terrorism. The US launched the War on Terror, which included the invasion of Afghanistan in 2001 to dismantle the Taliban regime and eliminate al-Qaeda's safe havens. In 2003, the US led a coalition to invade Iraq, aiming to remove Saddam Hussein from power and eliminate alleged weapons of mass destruction.
These interventions have been controversial and have faced both support and criticism. They have involved significant human and economic costs, but they also reflect America's role in addressing global security challenges and its commitment to promoting stability.
Today, the US maintains a substantial global military presence with bases and troops stationed around the world. This presence supports international security, deters potential adversaries, and allows for rapid response to crises. It also underscores America's role as a global leader in maintaining peace and stability.
In summary, America's military and global influence have been pivotal in its rise to power. From its involvement in world wars to the Cold War and modern interventions, the US has demonstrated its strategic, military, and political capabilities. This influence continues to shape global dynamics and reinforces America's position as a leading global power.
Now that we've explored America's military and global influence, let's move on to the next segment, where we'll discuss technological advancements and how they have contributed to America's development. Stay tuned.
Segment 5. Technological Advancements.
In this segment, we'll delve into the significant technological advancements that have propelled America's development as a global leader. We'll explore key innovations and their impact worldwide, the space race and America's achievements in space exploration, and the emergence of Silicon Valley and its tech giants.
Let's discuss how America became a global power. Where do you think this journey began?
Maybe with independence that set the foundation, right?
True, but independence alone didn't make them a global power. What came after that?
A westward expansion. They gained more land.
Yes, the idea of manifest destiny drove that. Why do you think land expansion mattered?
More land means more resources like farming, mining, and stuff.
Exactly, resources strengthened their economy, but was that enough to make them influential worldwide?
Probably not, they needed more than just land.
Right now, think about the Industrial Revolution. How might that have contributed?
Oh, factories. They started producing things faster, like steel and machinery.
Correct, industrialization boosted their economy and military power now. What about wars?
Wars, like the Civil War.
The Civil War reshaped the nation, but I'm thinking about wars with other countries.
Oh, like the Spanish-American War.
Good. That war in 1898 was a turning point. Do you know why?
They gained territories like the Philippines and Puerto Rico.
Yes, and with those territories, they stepped onto the global stage. Why would controlling overseas territories matter?
It gave them access to trade routes and made them look powerful.
Exactly, and what about World War I? Any thoughts on how that played a role?
Maybe because they joined late but still helped win.
Spot on, their involvement showed their strength and leadership. We'll continue from here in just a moment.
So, we left off with World War I. After the war, how did America's role in the world change?
I think they became more respected. Right, like other countries saw their power.
Absolutely, they emerged as a key player, but they didn't fully embrace the role yet. What happened in the 1920s?
Oh, the Roaring Twenties. The economy was booming.
Exactly, the US became a global economic leader, but what happened after that?
The Great Depression, everything fell apart.
True, and that affected the whole world. How did America recover?
Was it through programs like the New Deal?
Yes, domestically, but globally, World War II had a massive impact. What do you think America's role was in that war?
They were on the winning side, but they didn't join until later, right after Pearl Harbor.
That's correct. Once they entered, how did their involvement shape the war?
They had a strong military and a big economy, so they helped turn the tide.
Exactly, and after the war, they weren't just a powerful country, they became one of the two superpowers. What made that possible?
Was it their economy again? Like, they weren't as damaged as other countries?
Right, Europe and Asia were rebuilding, but America's industries were still strong. What global organizations did they help create around this time?
NATO, and maybe the United Nations?
Very good, those were crucial in shaping a new world order now. Think about the Cold War. Why was it important for America's global power?
Because they were competing with the Soviet Union, like, for influence?
Yes, exactly. The US wanted to spread democracy and capitalism, while the Soviets pushed communism. What events from the Cold War stand out to you?
Maybe the space race and the arms race.
Perfect examples. The space race showed technological dominance, and the arms race proved military strength. What about conflicts like the Korean or Vietnam Wars?
Those were about stopping communism, right?
Correct, they weren't just wars, they were part of the larger struggle for influence now. Fast forward to the end of the Cold War, what happened to the Soviet Union?
It collapsed, so the US became the only superpower.
Right, that marked a new era, but how did globalization in the late 20th and early 21st centuries affect America's role?
They became more involved in global trade and politics.
Exactly, and technology gave them another edge. Think about the internet or Silicon Valley. Why are those important?
They connect the world and make the US a leader in innovation.
Absolutely, and even today, their military, economy, and culture make them influential. But here's the big question. Do you think their role as a global power is secure, or could it change?
I think it depends. Other countries, like China, are getting stronger.
That's a thoughtful answer. The US faces challenges, but their history shows they've adapted before. Let's pause here, but keep thinking about what it takes to stay a global power.